History is filled with disturbing places and events that many people have never heard about. Tonight, we're exploring 5 dark historical stories that still haunt the world today. In the Venetian lagoon, there is a small island that locals refuse to visit. Fishermen avoid sailing near it. Boats rarely stop there, because for centuries people believed the island was cursed. The island is called Poveglia, located just off the coast of Venice, Italy. Its dark reputation began during the Black Death in the 14th century. As the plague spread across Europe, Venice needed a place to quarantine the infected. Poveglia became that place. Ships carrying sick passengers were sent there. Anyone suspected of having the plague was forced onto the island. Thousands of people died there. Many were buried in mass graves. Some historians believe the soil of Poveglia still contains ashes and human remains from the victims, but the island's story didn't end there. In the early 1900s, a psychiatric hospital was built on Poveglia. According to local legends, a doctor began experimenting on patients inside the old bell tower. Some stories claim the doctor eventually lost his mind and jumped from the tower to his death. Soon after, the hospital was abandoned. Today, Poveglia remains completely closed to the public. The buildings stand empty, slowly collapsing over time. But locals still say strange sounds echo from the island at night, whispers carried across the water, from a place where thousands once died. In the middle of Toronto stands a beautiful bridge with an incredible view of the city. But for decades, that same view became the last thing hundreds of people ever saw. The bridge is called the Prince Edward Viaduct, built in 1918. At the time, it was considered one of the most impressive bridges in Canada. It connected the east and west sides of Toronto across the Don Valley. But not long after it opened, something tragic began to happen. People started jumping. The bridge was high. The drop below was deadly. Over the decades, it quietly became one of the most common places in the city for suicides. Many of the deaths were not widely reported, but records suggest hundreds of people lost their lives there. Locals eventually began referring to it as the Bridge of Suicide. For years, officials debated what could be done. Finally, in 2003, the city installed a massive barrier called the Luminous Veil. Tall steel rods now stretch high above the bridge, designed to make jumping nearly impossible. Since the barrier was installed, deaths at the bridge have dramatically decreased. But the viaduct still stands as a quiet reminder of the many lives that were lost there, a place built to connect a city that became known for something far darker. In 18th century London, there was a place where people paid money just to stare at the mentally ill. They walked through iron gates, down long corridors, and watched patients locked in chains. The place was called Bedlam, and for many people inside, it was worse than prison. The hospital's real name was Bethlehem Royal Hospital, but most people simply called it Bedlam. It was one of Europe's first psychiatric hospitals, founded in London during the Middle Ages. But by the 1700s, the conditions inside had become horrifying. Patients were often chained to walls or locked inside small cells. Many were displayed to the public like a disturbing form of entertainment. For just a few coins, visitors could enter the hospital and walk through the wards. They stared at patients who were screaming, restrained, or wandering in confusion. Some visitors mocked them. Others threw objects or laughed at their suffering. On busy days, hundreds of people came to watch. The hospital had become something like a human zoo. Treatment for mental illness at the time was brutal. Patients were subjected to freezing baths, starvation diets, and painful restraints. Very few actually recovered. Eventually, public outrage over the conditions forced reforms in the hospital, but the name Bedlam became forever associated with chaos, madness, and suffering. A place that was meant to heal the mind, but instead became one of the darkest chapters in the history of mental health care. In the 1940s and 1950s, entire hospital rooms were filled with rows of metal cylinders. Inside each one was a human being. Many of them were children. Without those machines, they wouldn't be able to breathe. These machines were called iron lungs. They were massive metal tanks designed to keep polio patients alive. Polio was a terrifying disease that spread across the world in the early 20th century. In severe cases, the virus attacked the muscles that controlled breathing. Patients could no longer breathe on their own. Hospitals began using iron lungs to keep them alive. Patients would lie inside the metal chamber with only their head exposed. The machine used air pressure to force their lungs to inhale and exhale. The chamber would rhythmically rise and fall. Some patients stayed inside these machines for weeks. Others remained inside for months or even years. Entire hospital wards were filled with rows of these machines humming day and night. The sound of the pumps never stopped. For many patients, the iron lung became their entire world. They could not sit up or move freely. Some could only see the hospital's ceiling above them. In the 1950s, vaccines finally began to reduce polio infections. Gradually, the iron lung wards disappeared, but for decades, these rooms were filled with people trapped inside metal machines, breathing only because the machines breathed for them. In the early 1900s, a new psychiatric ward was built in a Welsh asylum. The beds were installed, hallways ready, doors locked, but something strange happened. The entire ward was sealed shut. It remained locked for nearly 80 years. In 1913, this new wing of Denbigh Asylum was completed, designed for dozens of patients. Workers arranged iron beds and heavy doors were installed. Suddenly, administrators ordered the entire wing closed before it ever opened. No patients were ever moved inside, and no official explanation was recorded. For decades, the empty corridor remained untouched. Staff claimed strange noises echoed from behind the locked doors. Footsteps, creaking, voices. When the asylum closed in the 1990s, investigators entered the sealed ward. Inside, everything looked frozen in time. Beds neatly arranged, medical equipment untouched, dust covering surfaces. A place built for patients, but locked away before anyone could enter. And no one has ever explained why. If you enjoy dark history and unsolved mysteries, subscribe to Luna Tells for more stories like these.